10 dishes the Queen secretly hated. Behind the glittering chandeliers of Buckingham Palace and the gold-trimmed dining halls of Windsor, one might imagine Queen Elizabeth dining on the finest delicacies the world could offer. But the truth is far more human and far more surprising. While she appreciated tradition, ceremony, and a perfectly set table, there were certain foods that made even Her Majesty quietly push her plate away. From ingredients banned in the royal kitchens to flavours that never passed her lips, the Queen had very specific tastes, and not all of them were indulgent. She could sit through a 7-course banquet with flawless grace, yet secretly wish the menu had skipped a few things. Former royal chefs, butlers, and footmen have all hinted at the quiet culinary no-go list that every palace cook knew by heart. Some choices were about health, others about habit, and a few simply because the Queen couldn't stand them. So, let's peek behind the palace doors and uncover the 10 dishes Queen Elizabeth secretly hated and why they never made it to her royal table. Dish No. 1. Garlic. The royal ban on bad breath. If there was ever an ingredient truly forbidden in the royal kitchens, it was garlic. Not even a whisper of it was allowed in Queen Elizabeth's meals. To her, garlic was simply too bold, too pungent, and far too risky, especially for someone whose job involved constant conversation, diplomacy, and photographs. Imagine a state dinner with a world leader, or tea with a prime minister. Garlic breath was never going to be part of the royal image. Former palace chefs have confirmed that the rule was absolute: no garlic in any form, ever. It wasn't that the Queen disliked food altogether. She just preferred subtlety over strength. She valued poise over passion on the palate. While chefs liked to experiment, they knew better than to test this particular boundary. Even Prince Philip, who loved strong flavours, had to adapt when dining with her. So while garlic may rule kitchens across the world, inside Buckingham Palace it was quietly exiled, making it perhaps the most famous food the Queen could never bear to face. Dish No. 2. Onions. Another fragrant foe. If garlic was the first to be banished from the royal menu, onions quickly followed. The Queen's dislike wasn't personal, it was practical. Like garlic, onions carried a strong scent that lingered long after the meal, and for someone whose daily schedule included meetings, ceremonies, and close-up conversations, that simply wouldn't do. One might say Her Majesty preferred diplomacy without the tears, literal or otherwise. Former royal chefs have joked that cooking for the Queen meant mastering the art of flavour without fragrance. No sautéed onions, no onion soups, and certainly no raw slices hiding in a salad. The rule was clear: delicate seasoning only. Her Majesty favoured clean, mild tastes, ingredients that left a sense of freshness, not heaviness. Interestingly, this aversion shaped the entire royal kitchen's approach to flavour. They relied on herbs, citrus, and light sauces instead of the usual onion-garlic foundation found in most cuisines. In short, if you ever found yourself cooking for the Queen, leaving out the onions wasn't just a preference, it was a royal command. Dish No. 3. Spicy food too hot for Her Majesty. For all her grace under pressure, Queen Elizabeth had absolutely no tolerance for heat, at least not the kind found on a dinner plate. Spicy food was one of her least favourite indulgences. Anything with a kick, a sting, or a hint of chili was firmly off the royal radar. Her Majesty preferred gentle flavours, dishes that soothed rather than shocked the palate. According to former royal chefs, the Queen's menu was famously mild: no curries, no chilies, and nothing that could cause even the slightest bead of sweat. While the rest of the Commonwealth was known for vibrant, spice-filled cuisines, Her Majesty's own tastes stayed rooted in the traditional British kitchen: clean, balanced, and reassuringly bland. It wasn't snobbery, it was simply caution. State dinners demanded calm and composure, and no monarch wants to risk watery eyes or a flushed face mid-toast. So, while others might have reached for vindaloo or pepper sauce, the Queen was perfectly content with her grilled fish, her roast dinners, and her tea served, of course, without even a trace of heat. Dish No. 4. Shellfish, the dangerous delicacy. When it came to seafood, Queen Elizabeth was famously cautious, and shellfish, in particular, was a strict no-go. Not because she found it unpleasant, but because it was far too risky for someone whose health was a matter of national importance. Shellfish, after all, can spoil easily and cause allergic reactions or food poisoning, and no monarch can afford to fall ill over a plate of oysters. As a result, dishes like prawns, mussels, and crab were almost never served at royal engagements or during travel. Even though she enjoyed fish like Dover sole or salmon, shellfish was considered too unpredictable for her table. Royal protocol dictated safety first, and so this dangerous delicacy remained politely exiled. Insiders say that this rule became so ingrained that even the staff avoided serving shellfish at official banquets, regardless of who the guest was. It was one of those quiet royal traditions, unwritten, but never broken. In the Queen's eyes, food was meant to be consistent, dependable, and above all, safe. And when in doubt, she simply preferred to steer clear of anything that came in a shell. Dish No5. Rare meat, a royal rejection of red. If you ever cooked for Queen Elizabeth, one instruction was crystal clear: no red meat that looked remotely red. The Queen preferred her beef, lamb, or game cooked thoroughly well done, every time. A touch of pink was one thing, but a slice that bled onto the plate? Absolutely not. This wasn't about snobbery, it was about upbringing and sensibility. Born in an age when undercooked meat was considered unsafe, the Queen carried those wartime habits throughout her life. Food safety, not fashion, guided her tastes. Even at state banquets, where chefs from around the world prepared lavish meals, her personal portions were always cooked longer than everyone else's, ensuring not a single hint of rawness remained. Some chefs found this preference challenging. After all, culinary art often celebrates tenderness and pink perfection. But for Her Majesty, comfort came from certainty, not culinary experimentation. A well-done roast symbolized tradition, discipline, and a quietly British sense of order. No fuss, no flash, and definitely no rare surprises on the royal plate. Dish No6. Pasta and heavy carbs. The unroyal indulgence. For most people, a steaming bowl of pasta or a hearty serving of mashed potatoes is pure comfort food, but not for Queen Elizabeth. Her Majesty viewed heavy, starchy dishes as unnecessary indulgence, best left off her plate. She famously preferred light, balanced meals that wouldn't leave her feeling sluggish or overly full. Former royal chefs revealed that pasta, rice, and potatoes were rarely, if ever, served when the Queen dined alone. She simply didn't see the point of such foods unless they had a purpose. To her, meals were for nourishment, not indulgence. Discipline over decadence, as one chef put it. This aversion wasn't rooted in dislike so much as practicality. The Queen led a regimented life: early mornings, endless meetings, and precise routines. A plate of pasta dripping in sauce didn't fit the picture. While she might tolerate a few roast potatoes during a Sunday lunch, she never sought them out. In a palace filled with temptation, Her Majesty quietly chose restraint over richness and made it look effortlessly royal. Dish No7. Fast food. A forbidden modern temptation. If there's one culinary trend that never crossed the gates of Buckingham Palace, it's fast food. Burgers, pizzas, fries, none of them ever stood a chance on the royal menu. The Queen's distaste wasn't personal, it was philosophical. To her, eating was a ritual of order and manners, not something to be unwrapped from paper and eaten by hand. Former palace staff recall that no one would even dream of suggesting takeout for dinner. Meals were to be served on fine china, with silver cutlery, even if the dish itself was simple. Her Majesty's view was clear: food should never feel rushed. A hamburger, however humble or delicious, simply didn't fit that image of composure and grace. That said, there's an amusing twist. Prince Philip reportedly enjoyed a good barbecue at Balmoral, sometimes making his own burgers from venison hunted on the estate. But even then, when the Queen joined in, the buns and ketchup were politely left aside. For her, the idea of fast food went against everything. Royal dining stood for tradition, care, and a touch of ceremony, even at lunch. Dish No8. Tomato-based dishes, too acidic for the crown. Among the many foods Queen Elizabeth quietly avoided, tomato-based dishes were another subtle no. Whether it was a rich pasta sauce, tomato soup, or even a simple salad dressed with chopped tomatoes, they rarely appeared on her private menu. The reason? The Queen found them too acidic, too harsh on the palate, for her preference for clean, delicate flavors. Former royal chefs have mentioned that while tomatoes might appear in garden parties or public banquets for guests, they were almost never served to the Queen herself. She preferred lighter sauces, perhaps a dab of butter, a hint of lemon, or a delicate cream reduction instead. Anything that risked staining her perfectly set tablecloth or her attire was also best avoided. It's a small detail, but it captures something deeper about her approach to food: control, precision, and refinement. Every meal reflected her taste for balance. In the Queen's kitchen, there was no room for bold acidity or unpredictable flavors, only quiet elegance, carefully measured and consistently maintained. Dish No. 9 potatoes, the too ordinary staple. Surprisingly, one of the most common foods in Britain had no place on Queen Elizabeth's regular menu: the humble potato. Whether mashed, fried, or roasted, potatoes were considered far too ordinary for the Queen's everyday dining. Her Majesty's meals were meticulously planned to be light, elegant, and nutritionally balanced, and starchy sides simply didn't fit that royal rhythm. Former royal chefs have confirmed that potatoes were served only on rare occasions, and even then, never as the star of the plate. The Queen preferred vegetables like carrots, beans, or courgettes. Simple, fresh, and lightly seasoned, rather than anything that felt heavy. It wasn't about disliking the taste, but about maintaining a certain regal restraint. A monarch who reigned for over 70 years didn't indulge in comfort food, even one as beloved as the potato. In the royal kitchen, simplicity wasn't the same as ordinariness. And for the Queen, the line between the two was very clear. Dish No. 10 rare fruits, the exotic rejection. For a woman who ruled over a global empire, Queen Elizabeth's palate remained firmly rooted in the familiar. Exotic fruits, mangoes, papayas, guavas, and passion fruit were never a regular part of her diet. Despite having access to the finest produce from across the Commonwealth, Her Majesty preferred the classics: apples, pears, peaches, and strawberries from English soil. Royal chefs recall that she found tropical fruits too fussy and unpredictable in flavour. Some were too sweet, others too soft or sticky, not ideal for the Queen's simple dining standards. Her meals were about elegance and control, not experimentation. A bowl of perfectly ripe British strawberries with cream was far more to her taste than any imported delicacy. This quiet refusal of rare fruits reflected more than just personal preference. It echoed her lifelong sense of tradition. Even in something as small as her fruit bowl, the Queen's choices spoke of loyalty to the land she ruled. The exotic could wait. Her Majesty preferred the comfort of the familiar, a taste of tradition and restraint. In a world where nearly anything could be prepared for her, Queen Elizabeth II's true preference was for simplicity, discipline, and tradition. Her dining habits weren't driven by indulgence, but by balance, a reflection of her character itself. She avoided the flashy and the exotic, favouring the steady and the familiar. Each of these forbidden dishes, from garlic to rare fruits, reveals not just what she disliked, but how she lived, with quiet restraint, impeccable composure, and a lifelong devotion to order. Even at the royal table, every choice was thoughtful, every flavour deliberate. Because in the end, being queen wasn't about having everything. It was about knowing precisely what to leave out.